Welcome to our breakout session. Get out the mic, effective public speaking in meetings, virtual and more. My name is Doug Mashkuri, Vice President and General Manager at GovLoop, and I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm so happy to have all of you here as well. Welcome to NextGen 2023. If you're coming from the keynote, I hope you enjoyed Sarah and Mary. What a great way to kick off the day with both of them and really get us energized, ready to move. And I'm so psyched for this section. So let's talk about it. You're standing up, your heart's racing, your palms are sweating, you're breathing heavy, your stomach hurts. So you either had like something bad for breakfast or you're about to be a public speaker. And we're going to talk about public speaking today and the challenges around it. Public speaking is hard, and it's harder now because you could be speaking in person. You could be speaking on the phone. You could be speaking from the field. You could be speaking from a hybrid audience. So not only do we have the challenges of public speaking, but now we have the medium as well and how to do that. Well, the good news is we have a wonderful expert with us today that's going to give us some tips on how to work around the fears around public speaking and also optimize the different channels or mediums you'll be working with. But before that, I am required to go through some housekeeping items. If you're on Twitter or X or I don't know, whatever they're calling it these days, we'd love to know what you learn. Use the hashtag NextGenGov to share your takeaways. We also have some great additional resources available for you to download on the right-hand side of your console. That includes the slide deck with all the info you're going to see, so check those out. We also hope you don't have any technical difficulties, but if you do, send us a message in the Q&A tab. My colleague Kelly will get your questions answered. In that same Q&A portal, you can ask our expert questions, drop them in whenever, and we will try to get to them at the end. We also have an open chat available for you today, so don't be shy. We want to hear from you. It's in the top left corner of your screen. You can interact with other attendees there as well. And if you miss a few tidbits of today, don't worry. We'll email you a link to the entire event tomorrow. It'll be sent directly to your inbox. So that's interesting, right? Now let's talk about CPE credits. We have a lot to get to here. You can get 1 CPE credit for participating in today's session. And there's 3 things you need to do. 1, attend this live online training for the full duration. So you're here, great. Take the polls. We're gonna have 3 polls that'll happen throughout the session. Answer those and click, when you pick your selection, click your response and hit submit. And lastly, complete the evaluation. That evaluation can be found in the resource module and in the main environment in the resource center. Whew, that was a lot to get to. Let's get on with the show. All right, we got Amy Dix here. Amy is the author of 7 More Days, Live a Life That's Bursting with Positivity and Happiness Before It's Too Late. She's got tons of insights and experience to share with us. I'm excited. Amy, the floor is yours and welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doug. And it's so interesting, when people, I'm here to talk about public speaking, and yet people are sitting there going, well, what's happiness and positivity have to do with public speaking? And I will tell you, that is the topic that I primarily talk about when I am on stage. And in fact, I just rolled off of stage not like 15 minutes ago, giving a opening keynote for a group here in Asheville, North Carolina. So I speak often, and now you get me today in my hotel room in Asheville. And so I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. So we're going to talk about, how to really use public speaking effectively. But more than that, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a professional speaker like I am. You can be a leader within your organization. You can be, maybe you just need to give a presentation, or you want to be better at speaking up during the meetings. All of that is great. It doesn't matter. You are in the right place. You are going to get some good tidbits today and some things to take away to improve your public speaking skills. And more than that, amplify your leadership abilities. But also, I think when it comes to really understanding communication and public speaking, it's really about becoming more self-aware of who you are, how you show up, how you sound, all the things. So we're going to roll through that today. But first, I think we're going to start with a poll. So let's go ahead and start with this question, which is, I to know from you, how comfortable are you in your public speaking skills? Now, be honest. It's anonymous. I don't know. Maybe it's not anonymous, but I don't see
It's
who
anonymous.
it's anonymous. All right, it's anonymous. So be honest. How comfortable are you in your public speaking skills? And so, choice A, I get really excited when I get to speak publicly. That might be me. That might not be you, and that's okay. I feel neutral when I need to speak publicly. Like, I'll do it, and I don't have to either. It doesn't matter to me. Or C, I prefer not to have to speak publicly. Don't call on me. Don't ask me to volunteer. Don't ask me if I'll give a presentation, right? So that might be you. So are you A, B, or C?
All right. And then we'll give them a few seconds to take this. I always like to do a little bit of gambling. So what do you think is going to be the most popular answer, A, B, or C?
Oh, I like gambling. Actually, I don't like gambling, but I like gambling with you, Doug.
Right on.
I'm going to say C is going to be the most popular. Oh!
All right. I'm going to push them out to you shortly. Let's see here. All right. You were right. C.
They're rolling at 55% of people. I think this is really interesting. I think if we ask any sort of cohort, right, that it would all kind of fall in line with this. Obviously, this sector with GovLoop and government leaders and employees, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, I rolled off of a stage today, and it was for a government group. So today is my government day. And so I'm here for y'all and all the government leaders and all the government employees and those folks that touch anything that has to do with GovLoop or government. So thank you for answering that question. Now, I said you're in the right place, right? So you don't need to be like a professional speaker. And what I was saying earlier is, even though this cohort answered it, close to 55%, it doesn't matter. We could choose any cohort, and I think it would be very, very similar. So you could be speaking for other people. You could be speaking in a big group. Earlier, before we went on, we were talking about speaking for big groups versus small groups. And Doug actually asked me a question, and he said, "Do you still get nervous?" And one of the things that I said, which kind of rolls into the next slide, which is the fear of public speaking, right, is I personally don't necessarily get nervous about what I'm going to say or present. When I get nervous, it's because I'm worried about what the audience is going to get. Like, I want to make sure that they get what they need, right? And they get what they want. And I'm here to tell you that even if you have a fear of public speaking, just know the audience is on your side, right? Nobody wants you to fail. Like, they're not sitting there listening to you going, "I really hope Doug crashes today." "I really hope Amy trips in the front of the room. I really hope she can't find her place." Nobody's thinking that. You wouldn't think that for someone else. I'll share a story with you. I was at an event in Florida. I live in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I was at an event in Florida, and it was kind of like TED Talks, where these people shared a little bit of their stories. And this man went up there, and he was wonderful. He was humorous. He was funny. It was great. The audience was engaged, and he went blank. And he didn't know what his next line was. He didn't know where he had been, and he didn't know where he was going. But do you know what the audience did? Everyone started cheering for him. They started clapping. The audience is on your side, I promise. They want you to do great. So even if you have a fear of public speaking, I put cockroaches on here because I cannot stand those things. Whatever your fear is, I think, it can't be worse than cockroaches. That's what I think. You find your fear, right? So the audience is on your side. And I think if you take that into this conversation, you'll start to see that public speaking is a wonderful avenue to use for communication, to grow your careers, to be a better communicator at home, to be a better communicator with your team. So just know that everyone's cheering for you, including me. That brings us, Doug, to our next poll, which is, as we get into this, what is the best way to deal with presentation nerves, right? So is it A, avoid all preparation and just wing it? Some people say this a lot, like, oh, I'm really good at winging it. So I'm just not going to prepare, I'm just going to wing it. Trust me, it'll be fine. Or B, memorize every single word of your speech. C, practice your presentation multiple times. Or D, drink lots of coffee before presenting. What do you think? What is the best way to deal with presentation nerves?
I think it's a very interesting.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
I say it's an interesting question because we always talk about this. You know, some people like to really just memorize everything. Others just like to have bullet points. You know, so they're not focused on memorizations. I'm really curious to see, you know, where this one ends up because I do think it's a preference, and I think everyone probably drinks a lot of coffee before presenting. So we'll definitely see that.
I'll tell a funny story while we wait for those answers, Doug. So yeah. I didn't drink coffee for like 32 years, 37 years of my life. I thought it was gross. I thought it was disgusting, but I have all this energy, right? And so I used to always make this joke that y'all think I have a lot of energy right now. Imagine if I would drink coffee. And now I drink coffee and I still think of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now their heads are probably exploding. So anyway, can we see the results? Are they in?
Yeah, let's see how we did here.
Let's see who drinks that coffee. Look at that. All right. You know, the problem with coffee is it may not make you feel the way you want to feel in a moment where you're already nervous, right? So avoid preparation and wing it. 2% said that that's the best way to deal with presentation nerves. I think you might be a little bit more nervous if you do it. Obviously, it can be done, but I promise you there's a difference between good and great, right? And all speakers know that there's a difference between good and great. Memorize every single word of your speech. Certainly, you know, some people can. I'll tell you the challenge of that, and then I'm going to tell you about my speech today and how I went about it, because I think what you said, Doug, is really important. It can be a personal preference. That's okay if you can. The challenge with that is if you miss a word or you're not sure what the next sentence is, all you can think about is what is my next sentence. And so it doesn't allow you a lot of flexibility when you're in front of the room. Of course, practice your presentation multiple times, yes, and then drink a lot of coffee. So I'm going to give you a little tip here before we roll. This is me speaking virtually, but let me give you a little tip here. It is subjective to a certain extent, and you just want to build in what I said, that is that flexibility. So for me, when I give my speeches, I do actually script the whole speech, right? And then I also have an outline. And what I do with that then is that when I script the whole speech, that is what I want to say. And then I pull the outline from that, and then I rehearse off of the outline. But one of the key things that I do as a speaker is if I have to memorize a speech, like for my speech today, I had to know exactly what I was saying and when I was saying it, is I will actually script the speech, I will record it, and then I will listen to that recording over and over and over again, because now I can hear myself speak while I'm on stage, because I can remember the recording. So that's just a little tidbit. You can take it or leave it. Speaking has really changed over time in the fact that, you know, we were always live, and now we have virtual, right? So here we are here, and we can talk about virtual, and I'm happy to answer a ton of questions virtually. But it doesn't matter whether you are on a stage, a big stage, a small stage, or if this is your stage. This is me, happens to be me in my home office doing a virtual presentation. So that can work too, and we'll go through some of the things that we need to think about when it comes to virtual. Now, the number one rule of speaking is this: distraction needs subtraction. Distraction needs subtraction. So let me give you an example. I'll tell a story. We had one of our speakers, side note, I also run a speakers agency where we help speakers grow in their speaking careers and get them stages. So just laying some context here. But so we had one of our speakers come to us and do a presentation for us so that we can coach him. And he went like this. the whole time. He was speaking and he was going back and forth. And we were like, hey man, that's really good, except it's really distracting. So you got to subtract it, right? So he didn't even realize he was doing it. And so if it's distracting, it needs subtracting. This can be hand gestures. This can be your likes, your ums, your ahs, any of those things. So one of the things that you can do is record yourself and listen to yourself. And if it's distracting, then it needs subtraction. So we're going to go through some of that too. When you think about speaking, there are really two concepts that I want to talk about. And when you understand these two concepts and just focus on these things, it simplifies public speaking. Or speaking, sometimes I think public speaking, I'm just going to say speaking today, because sometimes I think public speaking means that you're behind a podium and giving a speech, and it doesn't have to be that. So we're just going to talk about speaking and communicating today. So visual and vocal. So you have what you look like, right? How you show up and how you sound. Now, the thing with visual that's important to know is people will judge you visually. People will judge you visually. I hate to say it, but people do judge a book by its cover. So how do you show up? How are you presenting yourself? Just as a point here, I was on the stage earlier, as I said, but I had a different outfit on. So I couldn't wear that outfit on screen that I wore on the stage because it has stripes on it. And stripes and the camera are not friends, right? It actually, it makes people dizzy. It looks like my shirt is like dancing. So you have to be cognizant of how you show up and the way that you look in the right in whatever environment that you're in, because people do judge you. Your body language, right? So when it comes to visual, you want to think about your body language. You want to think about how you stand. We say stand and land a lot. So if you're giving a presentation and you're one of those that walks back and forth and back and forth and back and forth across the room, stand and land. Whatever your big points are, stand, make the point, and land it, right? So your posture makes a difference. This is a wall right here. If I was just kind of giving my presentation the whole time like this, leaning up against the wall, you're going to judge me on that. What's wrong? It's distracting. It needs subtracting. So your posture, your movement, how are you moving, whether it's virtually or it's on a stage or it's live. Your eye contact. Are you making eye contact with the audience? One of the things that we do in this virtual world is we look at ourselves. So we're giving a presentation. I'm actually looking down at the slides right now, but we're giving a presentation and we're looking at ourselves and we're talking this way, and we forget that our audience is right here. It is in your camera. So you want to be speaking to your camera, not to the screen. So little things like that, making eye contact. We talked about the way that you show up and that you dress as well. But just remember, visually is how people will judge you. Vocally is how they will believe you, and we'll get to that in just a second. So one of the things that you want to consider is elevating your sense of style and stage preference. Here's how you do this. I'm going to make a bold statement. I'm going to say that your style stinks. Your style stinks. Your speaking style stinks. Your dress style stinks. It just stinks. My style stinks. It's terrible. We need to elevate it. Not really, but do you see what I'm saying? When you think to yourself, oh, that's not good, then it forces you to elevate what it is and where you are, right? So how you got here is not how you got, it's how you're going to get there. So you have to constantly say, my style stinks. How can I elevate my style? And here's how you do it. Watch speech videos. Understand, what do you like about it? What did people do intentionally, right? Do you notice I did this with my hands? What do people do intentionally? Where do people get emotional? Why do they get emotional? Where did you get emotional when you watched it? Why did you get emotional? What was the point that they were making? How did they deliver it? What ideas make you go, OMG, yes, that was so good? That is how you elevate your sense of style and stage preference. All right, so people are going to judge you. People will also believe you. And the way to get people to believe you is through this. It's through your voice. And there's a myriad of different ways that you can use your voice to get people to believe you. You can change your pitch. You can change your power, change your personality, change your pace, right? Pitch, power, personality, pace, and the most important one, pause. So let me illustrate this for you. If you're going to change your pitch, there has to be a reason why you change your pitch. So today, when I was giving my speech, I was telling this story. I was telling the story of my mom. And so when my mom speaks, I change my pitch a little bit, just a little higher, so that they know that that's my mom speaking, right? So I would say something like, my mom would say, Amy, you have to celebrate the small things in life because the big things just don't come around that often, right? So I changed my voice. I changed my pitch a little bit. I also changed my pace a little bit. And that's the other thing, like when you're speaking, some of us speak really fast. By the way, y'all, I'm a fast talker. So sometimes I gotta bring it down. I gotta slow it down, right? And you also don't want to have the same pace throughout your whole talk because people aren't really sure how to follow that. And you also don't want to have the exact same pace throughout your whole talk because people just don't know how to follow that. So you have to weave it in and out. Your power, your volume, how loud you are. I joked with the AV guy today. I said, you're going to be in there when I start, right? Because we didn't get a chance to do tech check. And he's like, I can be. And I go, look, you're gonna want to be. Because I know that my volume tends to be a little more powerful for mics than what they're originally set at. So I always have to have a tech check, and I always like to have an AV guy in there at the beginning. So, and I know that about my volume, right? So, but now you can't shout at people the whole time. That is just rude. And people are like, why is she shouting? Also, when you make a point, sometimes you may want to change your volume. I also changed my pace a little bit, and I also did the powerful pause. Oftentimes, speakers, communicators use the like, ums, and ahs because they don't feel comfortable with the pause. But once you become comfortable with the pause, then you don't have to have the like, ums, and ahs because the pause replaces that. I promise you, you feel like the pause is much longer than the audience feels like the pause is. So if you need to pause, whether it's to make a point, to let something sink in, or just because you lost your place and you need to find it for a moment, take the pause. It's okay to take the pause. All right, so pitch, power, pace, personality, we're gonna look at that here in just a second, and pause. Now, when we look at your personality and your speaking style, one of the greatest ways, I think, to uncover your personality as a speaker, and once you uncover it, then these are the things that you want to lead with as a speaker or as a communicator, right? Is think about things when you were a child. What did you want to wear? What kinds of things did you want to wear? Were you a little spunky? Like, I was a little spunky. I always wear like kind of like weird things. I was just a little spunky. As a child, what activities did you want to engage in? Were you sports? Did you like to write? Did you like to draw? What is one word that describes you? And if you don't know, and you want to know how you're perceived, then what you do is you ask people, what is one word you would use to describe me? Just put it out on social media, let all the words come in, and then throw it into something like this, which is a word cloud, and you'll see very quickly how people perceive you. Now, this is your personality. So now when you're thinking about communicating and speaking, lead with this, because this is what makes you authentic. This is how people connect to you. Don't try to be somebody you're not as a speaker. Don't try to be somebody you're not as a communicator. Be you. So show, if this is you, this is not me, by the way, but if this is you, then you're going to show up kind of spunky. You're going to be positive and happy and bubbly. It's actually my mom's word cloud. But if you get that information from people, now you know how to show up as a communicator and as a speaker and be super authentic to who you are. And isn't that what you want to do anytime you're speaking, is be authentic to who you are? All right, so that's the best way to find your personality. Lot of good stuff. I think we're ready for a poll though, Doug. Let's see. Which of the following is a key element of effective public speaking? A, having great slides so you can remember what comes next. B, speaking as fast as possible to give the audience as much information as possible. C, engaging with the audience. Or D, avoiding eye contact so you don't have to interact with anyone. All right, we'll let these come in, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Are we going to gamble again, Doug? Should we gamble again?
Well, I don't want to gamble on this one, because I'm afraid we're going to influence the audience if we gamble. So I did see a good question, though, that I can throw at you right now. Someone asked a really good question. What pace is the right pace for public speaking?
Well, that is a really good question, because I'm going to answer it probably not the way that they want to hear it, which is understanding what's authentic to you. And like, I'm naturally a fast speaker, right? So if I had to slow down my entire presentation, it wouldn't have the same energy and, level of happiness and joy that I typically bring to the stage. So that wouldn't be authentic to me. However, the question is not so much what is the pace, but should be like, we want to interject different pace throughout.
Yeah.
But if it's too fast the whole time, people are going to be lost and they're going to be like, I didn't catch that, right? And if it's too slow the whole time, you're going to lose the audience. But you still need to be authentic to yourself in bringing that pace to the stage.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of comments too, just about, when you're talking about pause and the power of the pause. And I think you're right. I think the pace has to change, throughout. Map it to who you are and your personality, but know that you can move it around, based on the points you want to make. So that's good. All right, let me find the results here. I'll push them out.
Awesome. Great. Engaging with the audience. Ding, 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 ding. Yes. No, they're so fun. I understand that a lot of people do the slide thing so that they can remember what comes next. But here's the challenge with that is, what if technology is not your friend on that day? What are you going to do? And that happens, right? So you want to be able to deliver whatever presentation or whatever you're communicating that day. You want to be able to deliver it without the slides. So I know that they're great, and we've got some here, but very rarely there's a few here that's got some words on it, but very rarely will I use slides that even have words on it. Today I just had maybe 3 or 4 slides, and they were all pictures. So, but great job engaging with the audience. Ding, ding, ding. All right. Finding your process. So this kind of goes back to being authentic, right? Of who you are. Everyone is different. Everyone has different personalities. So I would ask you, what inspires you? What are some things that inspire you? What are experiences that you enjoy? And how can you bring your audience along with you? And where in the process do you struggle with speaking? Okay, so let me break this down a little bit. finding your process allows you, we're setting up here for storytelling, but it allows you to find the stories and find the things that you're going to say when you're in front of the room. So finding your process means, what stories can I use that will help illustrate my points? What experiences have I had that I can bring the audience in on those experiences and have them experience the same thing? What has inspired me in order to deliver this point that I want to make, right? So that's finding your process. And that really leads into the greatest thing about speaking, which is this: it's storytelling. And when you can think differently about speaking and think differently about presenting and start thinking of it as storytelling, I promise this changes everything. It changes everything, because look, y'all, you know the story. In a lot of cases, you're going to tell us a story that you lived. So now it takes the pressure off, right? You're not going point 1 and da 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 and point 5 and point 10. Like, that's not what you're doing anymore. You're telling the story to help illustrate your point. And you know the story, so just think of it as you're just up there telling stories. Now, a great storyteller is actually on the right there, which is an actor. Some of you may be a news reporter, which is on the left. So we want to bring the audience in with us. We don't want to be a news reporter. We don't want to just report on a story. We actually want to relive the story. Earlier, I'll illustrate this for you. Earlier, I told a story about, I'm also an artist, and so I told a story about how I started painting during COVID. Now, I can tell that story and say, I can say it this way. I can say, in 2020, with all the events that were canceled, I had all this time on my hands, and so I decided to start painting. And so I did. I started painting, and I started out, I painted dogs. People really loved them. And so then they started asking me if I could paint their dogs too, right? I mean, there's the story. I'm reporting, though, to you what happened. Now let me illustrate what this looks like when you're actually reliving the story. It was 2020. I went into my office that day, you know, like the office that's right next to my kitchen. Yeah, that office. I opened up my computer and I read, all of our events are canceled for the foreseeable future. This was my reality. And so without planes, stages, and automobiles, I had all this time on my hands. And so I decided to put these hands to work. One day, waking up, I didn't have anything to do, another bored day in the life of Amy Dix, so I opened up my closets. And there were all of my art supplies that I collected over the years, but hadn't used in decades. And I reached to the back of the closet and I pulled out an old canvas. I dusted off some paints and I set everything up at my kitchen table. I had my water glass, I had my paints, I had my canvas. I was ready to paint. Okay. Which one is more engaging? Which one is better to listen to? You say it's the same thing. I could go into the dogs and all that, but it's the same thing. But one, I reported what I did, and the other, I relived it. And I brought the audience in, and I told the story, and I gave them context and details and brought everyone in. So they were sitting right next to me. I mean, can you just see the kitchen table and the water glass and the brushes? Like, you can picture that. So you want to be an actor. You want to relive, not report. Telling a great story is just like a sandwich. You have your different layers, and here's a little trick in telling a great story. You can start your story with an open loop, right? So you start to tell the story, then you make your point, and then you close the loop. Okay? So it sounds something like this. Let's see if I can come up with an example. In 2020, we'll do the dog painting. Painting dogs. Actually, let me just make up a story for y'all because that doesn't give me an open loop. So I visited my mom, now in hospice, and she took my hand and she said, "Amy, I have something really important to tell you." "Yes, Mom?" She said, "I am not afraid to die." Now, I think when you live a life bursting with positivity and happiness, you can get to that point in your life where in your final days, you have no fear. And the reason I'm telling you this today is because time is a funny thing. But if we don't do anything with our positivity, if we don't do anything with leaning on our connections, then it will all be for nothing. Right? So I started the open loop. Sorry, that was a sad story, but it's actually a beautiful story. But I started the open loop, right? Telling the story of when she was in hospice, the point of the fact that when you live an incredibly positive and happy life, there is no fear in the end. You've achieved what you needed to achieve, the point. And then the reason I am telling you this is because. The reason I am telling you this is because, and that is the key to linking whatever story you're telling to the audience. You could do this with anything. You can do this with anything. I could take this with a water bottle, and I could say, and I could use the metaphor of a water bottle and be like, working as a government professional is just like this water bottle. And and the reason, or how, like, well, yeah, then you would have to find, okay, so let's do this. Working in the government as a government professional is just like this water bottle. So if I take certain things, like what is this water bottle? Well, it's got two, what do they call that? Dual insulated. It's double insulated. It's got water in it. It's got a lid that twists off. So I could say something like, being a leader, it's just like this water bottle. Sometimes you have to be tougher than just the inside layer. Sometimes you need 2 layers in order to make it as a leader in the government. That's probably a stretch, but you see what I'm saying? So you always want to link whatever it is to whoever the audience is. And when you tell a story, it's really easy to do. You just say, the reason I am telling you this is because. The reason I am telling you this is because. So you can get stories anywhere. And one of the things that you can look at is think about what influences your stories, or where can you find stories. So these are easy ways to find them. One, if you understand archetypes, like I'll just say personality, like what is your personality? How does that show up in the world? Where did that show up in certain times of your lives? Your different experiences, what are the different things that you've experienced? Culture, whether it's your culture or other cultures, how can you know, what have you experienced there? Geography is always a great way to tell a story. I was telling Doug earlier, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. It's gorgeous. I'm looking out my window here at the beautiful changing of the leaves, and I'm come up with some story about that. What are the different relationships that you've had in life? So you've got to kind of find what influences you, and then those you can use as your story. Also, what is your cause? What is your cause? So when you are speaking and communicating, one of the things to think about, no matter what presentation you give, you want to, like, what is the one thing that you want to be known for? Or think about, like, what is the last piece of advice that you would want to give the world? What is your cause? What is your purpose? What is your meaning that you want to inject into the audience? And you can inject that no matter what you're teaching. Y'all, I speak on positivity and happiness, but I'll tell you something. I used to speak on, I used to have a marketing company. So I spoke in content marketing, social media, writing, all things marketing. But did you know that the one thing, and I didn't consciously think this, but the one thing that I always infused into all my stuff was positivity, was positive messages, was being happy. Like, it didn't matter if I was talking about social media, I would talk about how to be positive on social media. It didn't matter if I was talking about copywriting, I would talk about how to make positive, how to write positively so that people would act on whatever it is that you're trying to put out. Like, that was the one thing that I wanted to be known for, not consciously, but it is. So think about, what is the one thing that you want to be known for, and how can you weave that throughout your speaking and throughout your communication? One of the things that we work with our speakers on is, what is your uncommon value? What is your uncommon value? So as a speaker, as a communicator, ask yourself these questions. Where do you commonly stand out? What makes you different? Dare I say, what makes you weird? What were you known for in school? Think about those things and think about how you might answer that. That becomes your uncommon value as a communicator, right? So if Doug is going to come in and present on public speaking, or Amy's going to come in and present on public speaking, by the way, they're two really great presentations. They're very powerful. You'll get something out of both of them. But Doug's uncommon value is going to be different than my uncommon value. So how he presents and how he shows up is going to be very different than how I present and how I show up, because my uncommon value is different than him. Same with you. What is your uncommon value? What is your uncommon value as a speaker? What is your uncommon value as a performer, if you're getting to that level? What is your uncommon value? So for me, just because I think you know a little bit about me at this point, but for me, one of my uncommon values as a speaker is really my energy, especially when I'm on a stage. Like, it is almost through the roof. It's very difficult for me to stand in this little box, by the way, for y'all. Right? So that's one of my uncommon values. By the way, that doesn't make somebody who doesn't have the same type of energy as me as not good. They just have a different uncommon value. They're still fantastic. They still can deliver. They just have a different uncommon value. One of my uncommon values as a performer is I actually speed paint. So I'll speed paint something on stage. That's my uncommon value. Look, y'all, there are thousands of speakers on happiness. Just because somebody doesn't paint doesn't mean that their speech wasn't great, right? So you got to find your uncommon value, what makes you different as a presenter and as a communicator. Okay, I want to make sure that we give ample time for Q&A. But I do want to talk a little bit for just a moment about, I'm going to just push the slide here, and we're going to get to feedback, but I just wanted a slide that didn't have words on. So, but I want to talk a little bit about virtual, because I have a feeling this might come up, and it's a lot of questions, yeah, that I get a lot. So let me kind of give you just some Amy Dix tips and tricks on virtual. When it comes to virtual, one of the biggest things or one of the most important factors I feel is your sound, So you got to make sure you have great sound. Whether you have an external mic or the mic on your computer is, if that's sufficient, then that's great. But if people can't hear you, or it's garbled, or it sounds super echoey, or it's not going to work, people aren't going to stay engaged. Okay, so the number one thing on virtual that I want you to consider is sound. There's a lot of great, really inexpensive mics out there that you can just plug into your computer, and it makes a world of a difference. The other thing is, what people see, remember the judging, they will judge you. So I know that we're all in this virtual environment, and we're in different, sometimes we're in different spaces, whether it's even in the office or at home. Right now I'm in a hotel room, but I can tell you I'm in this very tiny corner, because what you see matters, right? What you see matters. If I change this, and I'm happy to do this for y'all, if I change this and just kind of do that, oh, now I've got a mirror in the background. It's reflecting. People are like, what's on there? Did she have coffee this morning? Are those coffee cups? Is that right? You wonder, you question. Because what we see, we want to know, and what we don't understand, we also want to know. So that then becomes a whole thing. So it matters what you see. Lighting is so critical in virtual speaking. Too often I see folks, I could walk you through my hotel room here and illustrate this, but too often I see folks where the window is actually behind them and they're like one great big shadow. It matters. You judge a book by its cover. You do. Don't say you don't. You do. People are judging you too, right? So have great lighting. Okay. So beyond that, those are some of the basics. Beyond that, just presenting in general on virtual. Let me give you some things until we roll, and then we'll roll into Q&A. But you have to think of like, this is my space. And I can use this whole space as a communicator, as a speaker. So obviously if I had a big stage, I use the stage, but this is my stage. So one of the things that I think is often forgot about is what is behind us. Now you have to make sure that your sound is going to travel with you. And right now I'm on my computer sound, I don't have my mic, but if I was in my home office, I actually have a mic that swivels that I'll swivel with. But like I can make a point from back here and then use this to also illustrate something, right? And you've seen me do that a couple times. Well, I'll come right up to the camera. So utilize your whole space. You've got more space, I think, than what you realize. The other thing that I tell our speakers all the time is, I know we want to sit down on our chairs, right? But stand up. I noticed, Doug, you're standing today too. Stand up. Your energy is different. The way that you are going to speak is different. Your hand gestures are different. Your body language is different. Stand up. Stand up. Also, speaking of that part of it, you've seen me talk with my hands. I talk with my hands quite a bit. And we just had a speaker that we were coaching just yesterday, really. Anyway, she was giving a presentation. She had great hand gestures. The challenge was that her hand gestures were like, we sometimes saw them. So like we knew she was doing them, but we didn't really know what, So if you're doing that, make sure that you understand what your screen shows, right? And if you're doing hand gestures, make sure that they are visible in the camera. Otherwise, they're a distraction, and distraction needs subtraction. Okay. If there's more questions on virtual, Doug will take them during the Q&A. The last thing that I just want to say on communicating and speaking that is so critical, and every great speaker does this, which is get feedback. You have to get feedback, right? Because you might think one thing, likely, I will tell you, you think that you did worse than what you actually did. That's usually the case. So you got to get feedback so that you can constantly improve. And so that's really, really important. And in regards to that, I will tell you, I do what I say. And so if you have any feedback for myself, I would love for you to just scan this code and then give me some feedback. So now it's your turn. I want to hear from y'all. What questions do you have? How can I answer them? What's your burning, what's just, if Amy, if you could just answer this one question, I know I would be a better communicator. What are those questions? Give them to me and I'm ready for them.
All right, Amy, we got a few. We have some really great comments. And just, I want to, someone just brought up about standing up. And someone said your breathing is different standing up too. And it's so true. The way you project, the way your posture is. So it's a critical thing. All right, I have a broader question that came in, and I put a few together. You said early in the presentation that when we talk about public speaking, you think holding a mic in front of a crowd of 200, but public speaking is every day. And is there a way to help with our mindsets that whether it's a one-on-one meeting, a one-on-three meeting, or 1 to 100, why public speaking matters in those smaller environments as well, or thinking it that way as a strategy?
Yeah. Yeah, public speaking, and that's why I was saying too, like public speaking, sometimes we think of what you just said, which is why I like to actually just use speaking or communicating. And really, we communicate every day. So it's a really important skill to know and understand and to pursue, right? So there's a couple of different things that I would suggest. I might have started down this road a little bit, but one of the things that you can do, whether you are giving a presentation or not, just understanding strong communication skills, is you can actually present something or speak on a topic or tell a story. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And what I want you to do is I want you to take Zoom or something that will record both sound and video. I want you to record yourself. I want you to deliver it. I want you to record yourself. And then once you have the recording, now I want you to then listen to it without seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And just hear yourself. How are you communicating? How clearly are your points made? And then I want you to do the opposite. I want you to then watch it, but turn the sound off. And now you understand how you communicate and how you show up and how people perceive you. And then the third time, watch it and listen to it both. But you can do that, to your point, Doug, you can do that whether it's a formal presentation or, again, you're just telling a story, because we communicate every single day. And so it doesn't matter if I'm communicating with you, like when we were just chatting before, like that's all communication.
Yeah. And it's just like energy matters, energy matters. One-on-one or one-on-many. So, all right, we got a bunch of questions coming in. I just lost it here. All right. Someone has a good question. Is a great opening warranted when you're speaking in a large engagement?
Meaning, is it important?
Yeah.
Yes. If you're speaking for a larger engagement, here's a common mistake that I see. So, and I'm going to give this to you again from a larger stage, right? So if you have an opening and you're on a larger stage, one of the things that I see a lot of speakers do that I would suggest against is this. Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be here. Doug, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Who wrote that introduction anyway? That sounded amazing, right? Like, that's not an opening. So a good opening is your opening. Go, take the stage, and deliver your opening, and go into roll into it. That's what they asked you to be there for, right? So it absolutely is important to get the attention and to engage with the audience right away.
Here's another one. How do you get your audience to participate or get more engaged so speaking is not so one way?
Oh, so you have, great. Thank you for that question. You have to engage them. You have to have the activities to engage them, right? So if you're just looking for like you're asking a question and you're just looking for feedback, that's one thing. But if you're trying to illustrate a point, then you have to actually build the activity in order to engage them instead of just saying the activity. If the question is more along the lines of like, how do I get people to answer my question and engage when I say, hey, how many here, love public speaking? And then, so you're saying, no, not one single person in this room likes to speak publicly? Like, I think you got to call it out. I do it a lot. I call it out. I'm like, oh, so the rest of you just don't have an opinion, or, and then they'll go, oh, she's waiting for my answer. And sometimes I'll just wait until they answer. Then they know that the next time I ask a question, it's not rhetorical. I really do want them to answer and engage.
Excellent. All right, I have a tactical question, but a very good question I think a lot of us think about in terms of virtual. How about virtual background selection? You kind of gave us what's important.
Yeah.
Does it work? Does it not work? What are your theories? I've seen good and I've seen some really bad. So I'm curious about what you think there.
Are you talking about like virtual, like the ones that you
Yeah, you know,
choose?
put like, yeah, like I'm on a beach somewhere and
I'll give you the Amy Dix opinion, and I'll say that Amy Dix is not always right, and there's many ways to do this. But personally, I'm not a fan for the fact that when somebody has a virtual background, I'm always thinking what I said earlier, like if I can't see it, I'm wondering why. Like, why do they have a virtual background? What are they trying to hide, right? So that's just like a little human nature. Now, if you do have a virtual background and that is your thing, or maybe you just need to have one because you just absolutely have no space to be able to find something that's adequate, get it. There's just a couple of things that I would consider. One, you got to make sure you're not one of those. I have a funny slide on this. Maybe I should insert it in here. Where, like you're suddenly on the beach, which is funny in and of itself. But anyway, and like half your head is missing in the virtual background. So you got to make sure it works, right? And also that it's relevant to the audience. It's relevant to what you're talking about. Sometimes I just think that they get a little too casual.
Yeah. Okay. We have time for one more question. So I'm going to try. And by the way, I just thank you, everybody. These are just awesome questions. And it's hard to get to all of them. So we're going to do our best here, but we have time for one more. Last question is, someone's saying, and I think this is common, they get on wherever they're speaking, they lose their train of thought, they lose their vocabulary. How do you get back on track? Or what any Amy Dix quick tips, trademark, on how to kind of get that back when you lose it up there?
Yeah, such a good question. Sometimes it'll come to you and sometimes it won't, right? So there's a few things that I do, and it's happened to me. In fact, I was telling Doug today that I was at the end of my speech and I realized I forgot an entire section. And it was a really cool section. So I had to figure out in my brain while still speaking how to, kind of weave it back in. I often have trigger words, I guess, that link me from one section to the next. So, like, for example, today there was one that I talk about, the sentence ends with the word life, and then the next sentence talks about the joy of a child's laughter. And the way that I remember that is because I'm like, okay, life and child. Like the child still has so much more life to live, right? So if you set yourself up in the beginning to have some of those like trigger words so that you know what comes next, that will help alleviate at the time. That said, it could still happen. So when it does happen, pause, see if you can't get it back. If you have your outline or your notes, don't be ashamed. Go walk over to them. I had my outline today. At one point, I was like, is that the next thing? I just walked right over to the podium. They were sitting there. I just took a quick glance and walked right back out of the podium. It's okay. Just know that it's okay. And everybody, this is a great question to end on because it's how we started. Everybody wants you to succeed. Just know that. So if you've lost it, it's okay. Take a moment, find it, and know that they're going to be patient. They want you to succeed.
All right. Well, Amy, we are unfortunately out of time, but thank you so much. This was awesome. A virtual clap and cheer for Amy. I think virtual high five. We learned a lot. I'm leaning in to give a high five. So let's talk about what's next. We have a bunch of things still coming up. I lost my notes, so we're gonna see. We're gonna learn more here. We're gonna continue. We have this will be available on demand, and you'll get it. It'll be on demand in the next 30 minutes. Head over to the resource hall and the exhibit hall and get on the leaderboard. There's tons of activities you can take to win a gift certificate. Your CPE evaluation form is on this console and also in the resource area. And let's see what we got next. All right, here's what we're doing. Head back to the conference hall from 12:30 to 1:30. We have our lunch keynotes. It's Trust Goes Both Ways, creating a culture of trust and respect. We're going to honor our NextGen Public Service Award winners. So it's a really nice way to honor our community. And then we're going to shift over to how to lead with an inclusive mindset. Everybody, thank you so much for coming to this breakout. Thanks for coming to NextGen. Amy, thank you for sharing your wisdom. We're almost at the halfway point of the day, not there yet. So let's have some lunch together and we'll enjoy the afternoon. Thanks again, NextGen Nation, and we'll see you at 12:30 in the conference hall. Thanks, everybody.